Hi all. Okay, so I have a couple of quick thoughts, and this is going to become a longer thing at some point, but I just have to get it out of my system now. We're going through a lot in so many ways. We've been going through a lot for so many years. But, what I've started to really come to understand is that part of the biggest thing that we're collectively going through is fear. And it's fear on all sides. It's just a communal, collective fear of what's to come, what's going to happen next, what's the worst thing that's going to happen next? Are we going to have another pandemic? Are we going to, right now, are people going to get taken, kidnapped on the streets? Which, by the way, is actually happening. No one's running around Los Angeles, which is where I am, in riot gear. People are actually being quietly taken because everyone's asking for a change. And I don't think people know exactly what kind of change they want, so they always look to leadership to get that kind of change. But why are we looking to these leaders to provide whatever change they want? And see, that's the thing. We have all given our power away to these people who, quite frankly, I don't know if you noticed, a lot of them look alike, but they don't care about any of us. And I think that's what needs to change. And I'm not just talking about the political aspect of it. I mean, shit trickles down. Trickle down economics. Well, now we have trickle down shitonomics. And that's what we're dealing with right now, because there's no trickle down economics for anyone right now. Everyone, and I am going to be very clear here, everyone who is not an investor or answering to those investors is getting fucked. And I don't understand why people are not tired of it. Because here's the thing. We all feel tired. We all feel angry. We all feel fear. But why isn't anyone feeling like they should be helping each other? Why isn't anyone allowed to feel their feelings? Because we're told that we're weak, and that if you move or do things from the heart, you're not as strong, you're not smart, you're not skilled, you're not equal, because power is money. But in my opinion, power is love, empathy, care for those around you, and the ability to step up. I mean, really, the ability to step up and say, hey, I actually give a shit about this. I care about what's happening to this person. Or let me just start at a lower level. I care about what's happening at my company, therefore I would like to be able to share that with my boss. But we have leaders like, for example, I don't know who comes to mind, Elon Musk. No, you gotta sleep here. I don't care what you say. You gotta do what I tell you to do. That's the only way we're gonna win. What are you winning, fool? The space race for pollution? Why don't you care about what's happening around you? Because you don't care about others' well-being. But then you go back and you start begging people to invest. You didn't care what was going to happen when you helped someone who only cares about money and loves to put fear in other people. You cared about his opinion, but you didn't care about anything else or anyone else. And see, there's the problem. We put people who decided and told us that we have to feel this way too, that if you show love, empathy, true compassion towards others, and the ability to embrace everyone's unique gifts and listen to them and learn from everyone around you, if you actually do those things, then you're stupid, you're uneducated, you're weak, you lack motivation, you lack strength. These are people who, I mean, they can't even fart without crying, let's be honest. They can't watch anything that's just satire, comical about them without wanting to retaliate. And you want to know why? Because they are weak and they lack empathy. But I honestly think that when enough of us collectively showed that we care, like we did at one point during the pandemic, there was that point until those other people instilled fear in us. And by the way, those same people who instilled fear also were greedy and kept a lot of things could have helped people. But that's a different conversation for another day. When people started showing that they cared and that they were so talented, they could work from wherever. And they were so talented that they could quickly pivot and save companies, because this was not coming from leadership. These were the people who worked there, who, by the way, are the experts. When they showed that they could do that, it instilled fear in leadership. And I don't just mean in government. I mean across the board. I don't care if you were a leader, in your community, like troop leaders, Boy Scout leaders. Everyone became afraid in leadership because people started showing that with love, empathy, compassion, sharing ideas, knowledge, that's where innovation came from. But people in power, they don't want you to be innovative. Because when you become innovative, you start to see how things can be. And what can be is a society without greed. But when you don't have greed, you don't have mega yachts. And you can't buy out half of Italy for your stupid wedding. I mean, give me a break. At some point, there has to be a shift, which we're starting to feel. And we're starting to see it. But the more we do, the more horrible things start happening to people who genuinely want to work and they care about what they're doing. Stop deporting people who are in agriculture who know what they're doing. You eat the fruit. Why are you getting these people out of the country? What are you afraid of? Oh, I know. You're afraid of different than what looks like you. I really, really have seen in a company that was amazing, where the leadership, they didn't call themselves leadership, they were teammates. They listened to the experts and they called everyone else who was not in leadership the experts, because they admitted, you know what you're doing. And if we want to be successful, we should be listening, actively listening, and talking to everyone else so that we can just continue to evolve. So when everyone right now is calling for a change, what they're trying to change are things that they're afraid of. They want to stop evolution from happening. And when we talk about change, it's always in this big grandiose way, like we gotta down with, whatever, whoever's in power, down with this regime, down with this race, down. Why are women doing this? Why are people of color doing this? Why, if they don't have this stamp on their passport? What if they have an opinion? That has to change. You can't have opinions. You can't have goals for yourself that aren't in alignment with the way that we've been told ever since we were kids in children's books, that this is what a family's going to look like. And the only way you're going to have work-life balance is when you have a spouse or a partner and kids. Because if you don't have that, you don't understand. And this is actually something that Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan and Chase, recently said on a podcast. He actually said that you will never understand work-life balance if your ideals, if your familial makeup doesn't look like his. So in order for you to understand and be successful there, you had to change. But why can't leadership start to change? And everything doesn't have to be violent and forced. There should be a call for people to go back into their heart space and think about the actions and how it affects the collective just population. And I don't mean just in America, I mean across the world. When children are born, they're not thinking about the investors. They just want love. They want to be taken care of. They want to create. They want to grow. And the best innovations, the best inventions, the best things are things that come out of love. Fear and hate and calls for change in the way that they've been happening for far too long, that is dying. And if it's not dying enough, it needs to. And I don't mean physical death. I mean, we as individuals need to embrace empathy. We need to embrace compassion. We need to embrace love. We need to embrace creativity. We need to encourage it. We need to encourage it in our children. We need to encourage it in our parents. We need to encourage it in our grandparents. I mean, this is a generational thing where it's been so ingrained in people that you can't be who you were meant to be. So people stop trying to discover that, and it just gets beat into you. But what if we each individually decided it doesn't have to be that way? We can affect change, and we could do it with peace, love, and embracing our unique talents. We can be who we really are. Can you imagine the kind of things that could be if you weren't held down by fear of losing a job, which meant, even though you're making low pay, it means that you can't put food on the table. You can't have benefits. You can't care for your kids. I mean, just imagine. What if we just let love in? And what if we embrace that? What if we foster unique capabilities instead of telling people the enemy is AI? Well, you created AI and it could be used for good. Why does it always have to be a common enemy? What if we just all had a common goal to do the best for each other and not get attacked for it? So, and I'll talk about this more, but what I'm looking at is there needs to be a change in leadership, a change in the approach of how things are done, because the way things were done before, it's not working. And it's never gonna work. You know, I don't know about you, but I get really tired of being threatened that we're gonna be blown up by some stupid bomb that should never have been made by people who were afraid of other people. And a lot of the things that are done out of fear leads to the dark side, quite frankly. So, you know, there has to be some effort to start engaging in actual discussion that allows people to really be equal at the table. Let's just get rid of the stupid table. Let's come together and all start really talking about our ideas. And I'm talking to you, business leaders, community leaders. Don't do things to get a vote. Don't do things because you're afraid of what your investors are going to say. Because while you're busy telling everyone else that they're weak, stupid, they lack this, the only thing I see is your fear. But instead of calling you weak, I see a path where you can actually grow, learn, and evolve. I have more to say about this, but I'd love to know your thoughts, so please leave comments below. And, I mean, for the love of all, share good ideas, because I don't see a world where hate is going to be included anymore. There should always be inclusion, but I don't see hate being part of that. Love to you all. Can't wait to hear from you. Thanks.